My name's David. He's 32, 5'8", 200 pounds. He benches 105, squats 140, deadlifts 190. I continue to go up 5 pounds a week with some difficulties. I started very low, and I've been working on my novice linear progression for about a month or two now. My numbers are weak because I'm not only handicapped from a stroke at a very young age, but I have not strength trained in the past, and I'm mostly 200 pounds of fat. No, you're not as fat as you think you are, Dave. I've been very sedentary and only puddled about the gym on machines. The stroke affected my right side primarily, and I lack full ankle, hip, shoulder, and wrist flexibility to this day, and my grip strength on my right side is dramatically weaker. My right hand grip strength is starting to cause me to fail ladder sets in the deadlift, and hip and ankle mobility are affecting my squat depth. I would like to know if you would recommend I allow nature to take its course and slow my NLP to give my right side time to strengthen, or should I add additional training to correct imbalances, which may also slow my novice linear progression. If you would recommend additional training, what would you recommend to correct grip strength and flexibility? Any advice to better address my imbalances while maintaining progression as much as possible would be appreciated. Okay, here's the situation. You have got a neurological deficit on the right side. All right. A neurological deficit cannot be addressed with special isolation exercises that pull out little sections of the neurologically damaged musculoskeletal system, because these things would be necessarily performed with lighter weight. And if strength is our issue here, then lifting lighter weight does not solve that. If you are having problems holding on to the bar in your deadlifts, this is a perfect time to use a strap, because we're not training your grip. We are training the deadlift, and the grip gets trained along with the deadlift. But if your deadlift is being artificially limited by a neurological deficit that you cannot correct, and neurological deficits are notorious for that, as we know, then you are going to be giving up pounds on the bar for that part of the kinetic chain that is capable of lifting heavier weights. That's not being limited by your grip strength. So there's a perfect use for a strap in a situation like this. Now, you mentioned hip, ankle, shoulder, and wrist flexibility, that you lack full flexibility in those particular pieces of the kinetic chain on the right-hand side. I'd have to see that before I know that your assessment of a flexibility issue is actually correct, and that it's not merely a lack of strength in the musculoskeletal system that controls the range of motion around those particular joints. If you've actually got a neural deficit to the point where you cannot enter that range of motion, it's going to be difficult to get it stronger. And we would have to think up clever ways to do that, and we can do that. We do have clever ways to address situations like this. A box squat in your situation may be a perfect way to address the deal. But as with all kinds of serious injuries like this, like amputations at different places, serious disruptions to the structural situation within the kinetic chain require an extremely individual approach in order to be sorted out and experimented with and corrected. I mentioned this a couple of times, there probably won't be an injury book that deals with that sort of thing, because you have to start in every one of these injuries, you have to start from the general principles. And the general principles involve the moment model of barbell training, and they involve a familiarity with the anatomy and the physiology that we're dealing with, and when we use the moment model to load the musculoskeletal system. And the other general principle is the stress recovery adaptation cycle that is the phenomenon of the general adaptation syndrome. So you have to understand both of these things, and you have to understand them well enough so that they can be applied in situations that you may not have ever applied them before. This is where you learn things, okay, is the general application of these foundational principles on which our program of strength training is based. And once you get to the point where you can apply those things, then you don't need exact answers every time. You work through the problems and apply the general principles to the specific problem, and you'll come up with progress. Now, I don't know if you're going to be in a position to do this for yourself anytime soon. In a situation like yours, I would suggest that it might be worth getting some coaching from someone who has demonstrated to you that they are in fact competent in solving problems of this nature. But this is a problem-solving situation. This is not a apply page 148 to your squat, because that's not how it works. That's not how it works. I think it's admirable that you have not let this slow you down, and I think that you might find that coming to our seminar would be very helpful to you. Might clear up some conceptual problems. Once you get a little bit further into this process, you ought to give that some kind of thought, because we could probably help you quite a bit at a seminar where we solve problems all weekend long. We teach you how to solve these problems all weekend long. Give that some thought.